and you walk into the store and you're like dodging, like it feels like you're just like, trying to juke people out like the whole time
Right.
just to get yourself like a fucking yerba mate. Like,
What is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm very excited for this chat today. It's been really cool as this show has grown to get hit up by friends that I've made through hardcore and who've been on the show before, who want to come back and do a second interview. And especially it's always cool to compare the differences of what's going on in both worlds. The last time that Jake was on the show, and with the new record that's coming out from this band, and fortunately had the pleasure of listening to it front to back. I think I did it 4 times yesterday. It's a fantastic record, and I'm very excited to get into the weeds with Jake about it. So without further ado, the hardest band in the US of A, Jake of Judiciary, back on the podcast. Thanks for joining me, my friend.
thank you. That was high praise and a bold statement, but I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to get into it a little bit later, but I, talking to some people as far as some other things, apparently there's been a joke within the Judiciary camp about you guys being the hardest band because of you and another member maybe dodging some bullets. But I don't know if you want to get into that story this early, or we could save it for later.
I mean, we can whenever you want to do it. I think you might be the first public forum we'll talk about that on. So
maybe we'll a little tease. Obviously, I want to chat about the new record very, very early. Because that's coming down the pipe. March 10th, Flesh and Blood. What's the deal with the plus sign? What's the deal plus versus writing and? Whose call was that?
So that was our bassist Kyle's idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks cool and it's different. That's literally the reason why, because it's like we could do an ampersand, but like for like visual purposes, like if you see the album title,
Mm-hmm.
it has like the different font, and then it has like the little iron cross looking thing in the middle. It's like it's cool. So that was it. We just wanted it to be like a little bit cooler and different. We could have gone with an ampersand. We could have gone A and D, but why not?
Yeah. No, just N with a little asterisks, like if you're trying to say it that way. Flesh and Blood, yeah. Or whatever. Well, Jake, before we get into any of the music chats, as you know, we have to check some bevs for the actual episode. You've done this show before, and it sounds like you're well prepared. So I'm really excited to see your showcase. I don't know if you want to do the full gambit, or every time you've one runs dry and you're on to the next. But I'll leave that up to you.
We'll run the full gambit, because I don't know how much, if I'll get through all 3, because all 3 are pretty hefty. But my primary right now is some coffee. I got a latte from a place here in Texas called Merit Coffee Company.
Mm-hmm.
Merit, please give me free money. I spend way too much at y'all's place.
Give me free money.
Yeah. Well, they're based here in San Antonio, but they're like kind of a chain. Like they have locations in Austin and Dallas, and like it's awesome. Like you can buy their beans online, and like I'm not sure if you've talked to like Angel or from Dare or Abrasion.
Not
before.
Had him on the podcast yet. I do want to. I think I've reached out like a couple of years ago, but Angel, if you're listening, coffee chats is a must.
He's a huge coffee guy. Mm-hmm. And they stayed at my place, and he saw the beans I was using at home and won't let me live it down to this day, because there's just like some Costco beans.
There was some bean judgment.
Well, yeah, because we have an espresso machine at my house. So he was just like, why are you putting this machine through this right now? And even he was like, just go to Merit. Like they have the best coffee, like readily available. And it's like 5 minutes from my house. So yeah, so I'm sipping on Merit right now. Then if I get past the Merit, I got one of my favorite drinks of all time. the live cucumber Gatorade.
Okay.
It's the best Gatorade flavor. I know that's controversial to some, but
That is a take for sure.
it's just good, man. It's refreshing, feels good. And then on the back burner, I have some sparkling water. I know we got in the weeds of sparkling water
We
last time,
did. And Waterloo.
but
Did you check Waterloo last time? I don't.
yep,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, returning favorite as well.
yeah,
A few. You're definitely the first person to check a Waterloo on the show ever, but there have been a couple times where it's popped up every once in a while. So,
it's the best one,
best one.
in my opinion, except for Topo.
Yes.
Topo doesn't count though. That's in their own realm.
You know
But like,
what's very a sad reality is that it's become very hard to get glass bottle Topo Chico here in Canada. Like you could buy like a plastic one, but like that feels like
blasphemy.
it just feels blasphemy. Yeah, that's the correct
Yeah,
word. Yeah. Drinking out of a glass bottle. There was one time I picked up a grapefruit Topo Chico, and my life was never the same after that.
dude, I like grapefruit sometimes a lot more than lime. Like it depends on my mood, but like the grapefruit Topo Chico is so good, and
Yeah.
I wish they made more flavors. But like I don't want them to like mess up their formula. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't want to dislike a flavor because I love everything they do right now.
Right. Well, that was the thing, and this kind of goes into. I have a two bev situation. I'm also sipping on some coffee. In my favorite mug, which is the Karma Everybody Duck mug. The only
Nice.
criticism that I have is I wish it was on this, like the print was here, not right there. But good mug nonetheless. But I also have the Liquid Death sparkling water. That's been a new thing since we last chat as well, because I've been able to acquire such an obscene amount through the connections and people that I've had on the podcast. So
I've been trying so hard to just get a pallet of Liquid Death show up at my door, and it just hasn't happened.
yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. There needs to be, if I ever, because they're a company that I'm willing to play the long game for. So if there ever comes to a point where I can just, when you're playing certain like first person shooter games and there's like, care packages or ordnance drops, that's what I want to do for bands and scenes. I want to just like send a pallet to like a show that or like a fest and be like, has a little sticker like from Scoped Exposure on it. So
Yeah.
that's the hope one day. So we'll see. Well, Jake, very excited to chat with you again. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Jake, obviously we covered a lot of like your origin when it comes to like getting into music and hardcore in your first episode. So people that are curious about that can go check out that episode. But when people come back for a round two, I kind of do just like, we do the bev check and now I do a vibe check and see how you're doing and what's up and what's been going on with you since the last time we spoke.
So what was going on with me back then? I mean, the record. I mean, a lot of the time since then has been the record and like shaping it and making it to be what it is now. Still living in San Antonio, still love it. But yeah, a bunch of the time has just been like outside of just general life stuff, like been consumed by like the record. Because I think we talked in April of 2021, and I think at that point we hadn't even gone to demo the thing yet. I think we demoed it in May, and then we recorded in September of 2021. So it's been a long road to finally get this thing out into the public. So
yeah. I think when I was asking about that, you're like, we're writing, and that's all I'll say on that. So obviously there's more things cooking. But yeah, it's having the pleasure of getting an early access link to it and listening to it front to back. It definitely feels and sounds like something like that has been refined and like, kind of like how a diamond, it takes a lot of pressure and all that to make something truly masterful. A question before we get into the actual discussion of the record, which is something that's a bit of a selfish question, but it was also something that you brought up kind of, because the first time we chatted, it was like peak pandemic still is going on. It's just like, yeah, I'll just come on and talk, but I don't have much to plug. You were talking about like at the end of the interview, like, hey, we're not dead yet. We're working. We're doing these things. So, like in the midst of writing this record and having and sitting on it for the better part of a year, as far as when it's going to come out, like, how did you and the band as a whole just like deal with that, like inactiveness to it? Or like were you just like, we're just going to put our heads down and work on this thing, and people will, once we come out with new stuff? Or was there a bit of like, I don't know, like if us not being active is delaying things? Because that's something I'm currently in the mix of with one of my projects, so I selfishly wanted to pick your brain about how you dealt with that.
It kind of depended on the day for me. Like I like there was days where you're just like, okay, I know we have the capability to make something really, really special here. And I know we have the capability to, in my opinion, make what I would consider a classic and like something that we can be really proud of. So we should take our time on it, obsess over every little thing, which we did. And it'll pay off in the end. But then on the other hand, there's another day where you're like, oh my God, like we haven't released a record in X amount of time. We're not touring right now because we don't want to tour until we have a record to tour off of. And oh my God, like, but we don't want to play too many shows because we don't want to like burn people out on us, but we want to like, so it's like, then you feel like you're panicked and sitting on your hands, and it feels like somebody's just chaining you to a chair and just telling you like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
come on.
Right.
So it kind of depends on the day, but like overall, I think that I'm in the camp now that like taking myself out of it and looking to where things are headed, it's worth it. Like if you can make the music, the whole package, the aesthetic, everything exactly what you want, or at least like really fucking close, because obviously 5 different people have 5 different ideas of what
Absolutely.
it can go. I think I think it turned out really, really special, and I think that people are going to like feel the care and the obsessiveness and the arguments and the literal blood, sweat, and tears that went into this. So like I think it was worth it in the end. But I'd be lying if I said that there weren't like days where I felt like my hair was going gray and I was like I wanted to peel my face off because I felt like we weren't doing anything. But it's hard to just sit and wait.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a balancing act, because it's like no hardcore band should just be at the forefront of everyone's minds and feeds and all of that all the goddamn time. Because if anything, it's like that could be something where it's like overbearing to a degree, where people might not want to check out bands or check out new releases, because it's like, there are some bands that are just like tour dogs and they're just on the road all the time. But it's almost like not being around for a little bit, and then you come back with something like truly like epic. Like that's the vibe that I've felt with some of the new, the singles that are out at this point publicly. I was like, this just feels like epic. Like, and it felt like, people might have, seen you guys at a couple shows or Hellfest, but like not having Judiciary almost like had a little bit of anticipation to what's to come, versus like if you guys kept playing shows. But it's the same thing for me, where it's like we haven't put out music since this time, and we got all these things that we're changing on the back end, and we want to, when music is going to be released, we want to hit it hard. Like it's a really big balancing act, and it sounds corny, but like comparison being the thief of joy is easier to say, but it's another thing to just, when you're in the midst of that, to be like, all this shit's going on and we're still at this stage. But it's, you can't judge yourself too much on that when you're really in the trenches and working on something.
Yeah, well, and like a complete package of a record doesn't just take the 5 people that are involved,
right?
Especially if you're like, we're on a record label that has major distribution. Like that takes, okay, we gotta make this music. Then we gotta go record it. That recording, like the engineer, producer, Arthur, has to edit the tracks, get them ready to go to mixing. So that's a time process. And then Will Putney gets it, and he has X amount of time to mix and master it.
Right.
And then that time gets lost because the studio gets flooded. So it's
right, yeah.
Now we got to wait even longer. And then we went into the process of like, we don't want to do art till we know what this sounds like because we want to make sure the art sounds like music. Then we go into art, and you have to wait on that guy, and then you go into layout, and then you have to wait on that guy, and then you send everything off. Then you have to wait on the people to manufacture it, and then you have to wait on those records to come over to America. So it's like it's a nightmare waiting process that you can't really control.
Yeah.
Like, as much you can do your best to manage it, but either way, you're still going to be waiting. You're still going to be sitting on your hands waiting for people to hear this thing.
Yeah.
So like it's in our case, we made it worth it. And I think that that's the best way you can do it, is just make it worth it to you, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, I love that sentiment there. And you know, it's funny because I have that side for one project, and then I have a new band that just started where it's like, oh yeah, we're just doing a demo and we could just self-release it. And like that's a beautiful thing for anybody doing hardcore. But like the bigger the stakes, the bigger the, you know, the impact that it can have. And you know, you're following up the last record that came out, you know, 5 years ago at this point. Like, you know, you should wait and you should play the long game when it comes to it, and you know, not get in too much in your head about it. So yeah, I feel like you hit the nail on the coffin there.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, there were days where we wanted to A, kill each other, and B, like peel our own faces off, because it was like, no, we gotta wait. No, we need to hurry. No, wait, like, let's get on the same page. Come on, let's do this. Well, I like this. No, I like this. Like, right. And that maddening process created like something really, really good. So I think, again, I've said it like a million times at this point, but it's worth it.
Yes.
Honestly.
This is a total aside. I think just the way that you are sitting and the it looks like you have what? Yes, exactly. Screenshot. That's the cover of the podcast.
Yeah.
You can either keep it. I just wanted to just so you're not watching this back in 5 years and being like, why didn't Spencer say that I have a horn coming out of my head for most of this podcast?
No, I was noticing that. I take like most of my like Zoom calls and meetings from here. I was doing therapy yesterday with my virtually, and I noticed that, and my therapist laughed at it. So
that's very funny. So yeah, let's talk about Flesh and Blood. Like, you know, you've talked a little bit about the timeline of, you know, when writing and some of those things came into play. I know that you just were on Hardlore with Colin and Bo, and Colin said, like, I think even just after the first release came out, it felt like a major step up when it came to the last record. And when I got to listen to it, I listened to the full album. I was like, this definitely feels like you guys took the best parts of Judiciary and then just pumped the ever loving, like, epic factor of all those things. There's definitely parts in there that I'm like, I feel like if I was watching the original season of Yu-Gi-Oh, there would be like your guys' instrumentals in the background there, because there's like a bit of that kind of thing. The very first question I have, though, where and what is in the photo with the whole band when you guys started your rollout? Because I was like, this looks like the spaceship from Attack of the Clones where Count Dooku jumps in it and fucking pulls away. But I'm like, yeah, that must be somewhere where you're from.
So yeah, that's actually that's in just outside of Lubbock, where we're from, in the middle of West Texas. And that building, just to give you a background into like what we were thinking for the record, we wanted it to feel like a post-apocalyptic, futuristic, weird fucking place. And that building looks like that. It's rust colored. It's not rusty, but like it's kind of like a dark metal. It's a metal building that's oversees this lake called Ransom. It's in Ransom Canyon, Texas. I can't remember what the lake is exactly called. It might be Buffalo Lake,
Okay.
but I know Buffalo Lake's like a separate thing. But it's in Ransom Canyon, and it oversees this lake. And basically, it was a art project that took 40 years to make. Um, it's called the Bruno Building,
The Bruno
and it's one,
building.
yeah, and
Very
it's one of the
nice.
coolest. It's one of the coolest things about Lubbock, honestly, is that this thing exists. And basically, it was this artist that was a professor at Texas Tech that just took it upon himself to like build this structure.
Hmm.
And it's been featured in like really major publications. Like Vogue did like a major like photo shoot there.
Oh, wow.
Where they got like inside, because like it's like it has like some crazy staircases and shit inside, and like you can see the windows are like crazily done. And then like Solange did part of a music video there. Like she's dancing on top of it in one of the music videos, and they get like this big drone shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where that is. It's just outside of Lubbock in Ransom Canyon.
That's so, the first thing that we talked about is like, making it worthwhile for yourself, and like doing 40 years of one specific, project that's, definitely a grueling process as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Well,
I think as soon as you guys like, drop that with the new logo, like the new logo is fantastic, but I was like, I have more questions about this building, and what the lore behind it is.
yeah. Well, and it's unfortunate the state of it right now, because somebody bought it a while back, and they were like, "Oh, we might turn this into a museum." But then I think when they looked at it, they were like, "This couldn't hold like that many people up there," because it's like a pretty crazy building. They're like, "I don't know if we should do it for a museum." So that person sold it to another guy who naturally is like, "Airbnb, let's make it an Airbnb." So he was going to make it an Airbnb, and then I think he realized that that is not the way to go with that building. Like even like just thinking about like, where are you going to put the plumbing for the bathroom? Like it's raised up. Like where is that going to go?
Yeah.
Essentially,
where's the shit gonna go?
Yeah, exactly. So he, I think, bailed on it, and I think it's up for sale. It might not be. But yeah, like I don't know what's going on with it, but the family doesn't own it anymore, which is super unfortunate. But I hope wherever it ends up, it gets taken care of, because it's like that building is so cool, man. Like it's so cool. We drove, because like Israel's the only one that lives there now. We drove up from Austin to San Antonio, flew Jimmy down from Milwaukee, and flew a photographer out there just so we could take these pictures.
Wow.
In front of the building. Like effort and money like went into that.
Right.
So,
yeah, that wasn't like let's just roll up at the graffiti wall in town. It's like very specific. But like to your point, the idea of the vibe of this new record having that post-apocalyptic, like kind of like Mad Maxy kind of style, like that building is perfect. No smoke and mirrors, no CGI bullshit. The fact that that's in Lubbock as well is also like, yeah. So I think that it was definitely worth all the money to be able to take, a few photos. But yeah, I hope that there is maybe people that are listening to this who want to tour, either to Lubbock or in the area and want to stop there to check it out, because the building is awesome.
Yeah, and if you stop there, there's another house across the street that actually has residents in it. So don't go up to the house.
Okay.
That has like
actual
crazy
people
like
living in there.
Yeah, it's like a crazy concrete building with like mosaic stuff all over it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but like if anybody visits, like just be respectful to the neighbors. But like the buildings are super super sick.
Yeah.
Like I'd advise going to see those in person to anybody.
Yeah, it's always funny when something becomes cool based off of a band, a TV show. Like I think the lady that lives in the Breaking Bad house, like she's like totally down for people to come and take photos and stuff.
No.
Oh, she's not?
She's not.
Oh.
She hates everybody. Like we went there once. So like I don't know if you've seen if you looked up on like TikTok or YouTube, like Breaking Bad house, anybody who goes there, she's just sitting out on the driveway and screaming at them. Um,
Really?
yeah,
Oh,
like,
okay.
and
That might have
she's
changed. Maybe her tolerance just wore thin, but
I think so because like so when when the show first came out, people were throwing pizzas on top of her house. So I
oh,
think
okay.
that
That doesn't help.
naturally, yeah, I would be pissed too. But like, I think that they didn't know that the show was going to be as big as it was,
Sure. Yeah.
and then people start coming, and she's done so much to that house that it doesn't look like the Breaking Bad house anymore. Like she's
Oh,
painted it,
yeah.
she's painted it, she's replaced the lawn with rock. She put a giant fence around it that has like signs that say like no trespassing,
Oh
and she'll
no.
yell at you if you get like me and Kyle went there to take a picture in front of it a few years ago,
Mm.
and we were across the street, like not even on her sidewalk, and she was like, "Hey, be respectful," and Kyle was like, "Oh, we're across the street," and she was like, "I don't need your attitude." and, and then she yelled some really aggressive things at us,
Oh my.
and then
Oh
we
man.
left. And we got our pictures and left, but it was insane. Yeah,
Yeah, like Breaking Bad is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, but now I feel bad for this lady that, yeah, like offer like it's almost like if I was in her shoes, I'd be like, maybe I could sell it to the show and then they could just turn it into like a little museum in the middle of this like cul-de-sac or whatever. But if that's the house that she grew up in and had, kids and grandkids, like that's unfortunate.
yeah. I think part of it though is just like at some point I feel like I would have to just like put my hands up and just be like, I can't keep obsessing over every single person that comes over here,
Right.
like, because it's going to ruin my life.
Yeah.
Like, I
The
feel
the
like you would have to.
pizzas and, people probably knocking on the door being like, "Skylar, where?" Like saying like
Yeah,
quotes from the movie. That would get annoying pretty quick. But yeah,
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
and I think it's like you're looking through the lens of like, or we're both looking through the lens of like, oh, I'm respectful when I go over there, but like some people are not. And
Right.
like,
Totally.
if I were her, I would just be like, I'm putting a fence up, I'm putting signs up, and if anybody like trespasses, I have them on camera. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit like and watch every single person and yell at them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, shout out to her if she's listening. She's never going to hear this, but be respectful wherever you go when it comes to either shit from Breaking Bad or things in Lubbock. Um, let's talk about the new record. So 10 songs of just pure unrelenting fury. What was like the most grueling process of that? Because obviously you guys took a long ass time, and I think we talked about in the first interview where there was like things where COVID people had to learn how to do demos and like start sending things back and forth. But when it came to the actual like the fine tuning and like really getting detail oriented when it comes to the different things, what was like the thing that really took the longest, or you didn't anticipate to take the longest?
Um, I think like just the vetting process of like stylistically where we were going,
Mm,
honestly, because I think that there was a spoken vision that we were like, we should do this. And basically what that was like, we've done the crossover thing. We've expanded on that on Surface Noise and maybe made it a little bit more metal. What do we want to do now? Because we can't just make Surface Noise Part 2. We've already done the thrash thing. Like, we don't want to go back there. Like, we need to differentiate ourselves, and like we want to do what we like, which like we kind of dove deeper into like what we like and like what got us into like music, and like a bunch of that was like we grew up in like early 2000s, and like obviously Pantera is pretty apparent, but like also God Hates Us All by Flair came out in 2001.
hmm
Like that was huge. Like the Hatebreed Perseverance came around then too. We revisited some other records like Chimera, like Impossibility of Reason. Obviously, we wear the Machine Head thing on our sleeves, like,
Of course.
but like it's like okay, like this is like a doable direction where it's like that feels like the next natural progression of where we could go with this
hmm
is like let's let's make like, because no matter what, no matter how wide we swing, once you put my voice over that music, it still sounds like Judiciary. So, and we're already a metal leaning hardcore band at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's swing wide and pull in influences from like death metal, black metal, and make it into this anchor of like early 2000s metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and naturally we're hardcore kids. Like, we can't help ourselves but to make it sound like a hardcore song.
Yeah. You're like, where are the two-step parts? Where are the breakdowns? Yeah.
Like we literally, it's our natural instinct to make it sound like a hardcore song.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just go into it looking directly towards metal, it'll sound like the perfect hybrid. Mm-hmm. If we go into it with the idea of let's make a metal record but hardcore, it's just going to sound more hardcore.
Sure.
And we wanted to perfectly marry the two,
mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So like the vetting process was the hardest part, because it was like hardcore kids trying to write metal riffs is really fucking hard. Like, because it's like, oh, here's this, and it's like, that sounds like a little too metal. Here's a reference for like where you may need to go for that. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's closer. Let's get it like a little bit closer here. And then we write that. And
did you find that was on drums, guitar, like on every aspect of the band? It wasn't just one specific thing?
Yeah, even down to when we recorded it, like my vocal patterns were even like, because a big reason why we recorded with Arthur is like he's recorded some of the biggest metal records that we love, mm-hmm. like in the recent memory, like Power Trip, obviously, but like he recorded like the Cavalera Conspiracy record, which I'm not sure if you've listened to that. No. It is unfucking believable. Okay. It's like, it sounds like old Sepultura, but new, because obviously the Cavalera is like our old Sepultura.
Sure.
But like he recorded that, and it was like, oh my god! And he doesn't just record, like he helped them write and shape those songs. Mm-hmm. And he did that same thing for the new Soulfly record, which sounds like the Cavalera record too, honestly, in my opinion. And so even down to when we recorded it, like I had a vocal part ready to go, and Arthur would be like, you sound like a hardcore kid. Like that's a hardcore vocal pattern that you're doing, because in his words, he was like, hardcore kids just want to say everything. Pull yourself back.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So like he carried that over to me. He carried that over to the other guys, because there was like, I remember when we recorded Paradigm Piercer, he essentially rewrote that song for us. Because like we came in with this idea, and we were like, we want to like make this like grandiose, big, like we want it to feel like we're playing this at Hellfest, essentially.
Yeah.
Every time we play it, which I think it turned out that way. But like, he was like, we had like a 2-step at the end. There was a blast beat in the middle, and he was like, "This is not doing what you think what you think it's doing. Mm-hmm. So let's make it what you think it's doing." And he did it perfectly. So
yeah, no, that's very interesting on how like someone who has a lot more like metal background when it comes to songwriting and productions, like, yeah, the lyrics when it comes to it, like you're saying too much, like lean out some words, like try to like boil it down a little bit more. Because I totally agree. Yeah, there's like different, whether a band is like a true New York hardcore band or something that's like a bit of a metalcore hybrid, there's definitely vocalists that are just like, it's a million words a minute. Like naturally, like when I'm writing lyrics, like I'm thinking that same way too, because it's a very hardcore way to do things. But I like how, you know, you were challenged in the way to like change it up a little bit to again keep that like we're writing a metalcore record from a hardcore kid's perspective, but we're not trying to have it as a metal record tried to be that, but we're trying to make it hardcore, you know?
Yeah. And I'll give you some fun lore behind Paradigm Piercer in particular. The second verse of that song was originally the chorus for that song.
Really?
Which like now it's like that should have never been before. Like, but that's literally the hardcore kids in me speaking, because that second verse is so vocal. It's like, every single ounce of hate I have is for you. Changing what you made, there's nothing you can't do. Piercing the order. And all he did was, he was like, "What'd you say in that second part?" That's the chorus. And write some other lyrics, and that goes over this big, bouncy, chuggy part. But yeah, that was originally the chorus, and that, if you put that second verse over the chorus and think about it, it's like, oh yeah, that's a hardcore chorus, like to a T. But it's just not, it doesn't work for that song and what we wanted it to be.
Yeah. I really again, like Colin said this on your Hardlore episode. I really liked how he said, like, and he says this to other bands, like, evolve, don't change. And it definitely sounds like there's a clear evolution from the crossover stuff that you were doing before to where it is now. There's definitely like crossover sections, but there's sections where it's like, this is like full unapologetic metal riff section here, and just some of the choices that you've done on all that. But like, to your credit, I think the fact that you guys were very like, we need to do this in a way that's authentic to us, but we need to have it be intentionally different. I think that, yeah, and I think you guys like really succeeded in that, and through all the blood, sweat, and tears to get there. I think when people hear the full record, they're really going to be blown away.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and it's nice to get like affirmation from other people, because like in our circle, we were like, okay, this is exactly what we wanted. Like, hopefully other people receive it well too. Which, like, there's always going to be people that are like, demo's better.
Yeah.
Like, but like,
play Access.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which like Access in particular, it's like, as a song, I think I said this on Hardlore too, but like, it's so frustrating. Like that is the song. I love that song. I love the reactions it gets. I love that people love it. It's awesome. But like, where you were when you wrote that, and what songs you put way more effort to. So it's cool. But like, yeah, there's always going to be people that are like, Access is better. They should have never changed. It's like, yeah, but if we wrote Access 4 times, like, nobody, like, we wouldn't, like,
we would
that
not
wouldn't
be sitting
feel good.
There. Yeah.
We also wouldn't care for it. Like, it's like, because it's just like, oh, this just sounds like Access. Like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Like, it's pointless.
So before, we're going to take a quick detour off of the new record to do this question, and then we'll jump quick back. But I always ask, like, I feel like this is a good segue to get there. So I've been asking this to people that have, big discographies, a few albums to choose between. And, there's some grievances with Access. So I feel like it's, you can either put it to bed or, choose another one. In your opinion, most overrated Judiciary song, and then most underrated Judiciary song that's out right now, excluding the new record, obviously, unless you want to include the singles that are out right now.
No, because I feel like the new record is so just like, this is the greatest thing we've ever written kind of thing in my mind. Like right now, I have rose tinted glasses with the new record right now, so I'll leave that one out. I think like, even again, I love this song. I love what it's done for us. I love that people love it. I love that I get the shit beat out of me when we play it. Access is the most overrated Judiciary song. And it's because it's so loved by the people who love it. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean I hate it. I want to play it still. But it's naturally the most overrated Judiciary song.
Okay.
Most underrated Judiciary song, War. Time Is Nigh.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, we still play it because we love it. But what I find with War is it is a band guy song. If that song is for the guy in the band that you're on tour with, standing on the side of the stage, they've never heard that song before because it's the last song on the record. And so many times people have been like, that riff is so good. The like, and like, I remember in particular, the guys in Creeping Death love that song. And that's what makes me think about it. But like, that was actually one of the Justin from Close Casket told us that song was the tipping point for him to be like, yeah, I want to sign this band.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it feels like, and like even in the Spotify plays, people don't listen to that song that much, and which is for a myriad of reasons. But like,
it's last on the record. Yeah.
people don't have the attention span to listen to full records anymore. So, but like, even he was like, that was that was a big reason why I signed you, was that song. And we love that song. And I felt like it was a clue for like us going a little bit more metal down the line.
Sure. Okay.
So like, yeah, War is our most underrated song. And I wish people would appreciate it more, but I feel like over time it has aged well. I feel like the reactions to it have gotten better since we started playing.
Okay. That's good. It's always fun to ask this question, and some people are like, because some people pull out underrated picks, but they've like never they've only field tested it maybe like 1 or 2 times. It's like, yeah, that's not a winner. But the fact that you guys are like, I'm a believer in this track, and you're still putting it in your live rotation, and you're seeing the fruits of your labor. Maybe if you're back on the podcast 2 years from now, maybe War is getting what it's worth in the live setting. So here's to hope.
I got to shout out one more overrated song. We've never played it live, but I see a very vocal minority sometimes online that's just like, I wish they would play that song online. Silent Vice off of the Axis of Equality EP.
Oh, okay.
That does not sound like a Judiciary song. Like, we can't play it live. Like, it doesn't. But I see it like a bunch of people really, really love that song. And again, good song. I like that people like it.
I don't think anyone said an overrated song that they've never played live. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, because there's some songs that I think that people just gravitate towards. Like Silent Vice was the one on the Axis of Equality. On Surface Noise, there's a large lot of people that live set like 7.65 millimeter.
Right.
And we've never played that song live either, but I see people online being like, play that. When are you going to play that? And like, the answer is probably never, just because it doesn't feel like we should, essentially. And there's probably going to be a song on this record that happens like that too. But
does that happen intentionally, where you're writing a song that's like, oh, this is a rock block kind of song? I don't know if we're able to play it live. Like, how many songs have you not played live that you've released? We've talked about 2 so far.
Honestly, those might be like the main 2 that we've never played.
Main 2, but still getting a lot of love and people asking you to play. It's not like, oh, we can't play this.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's a good point. Now that I think about it, like, I think those are like 2 of the only songs we've never ever played live. Even there was another song of Surface Noise called Burden of Truth that we never played until like last year or something like that. And we played it, and it was like, that was cool to us, but it didn't hit.
Sure. So
there's a reason why we never played that.
Yeah.
Like, it sounded great. We love that song, but it just like didn't work out like in our favor. But yeah, I think those are like the 2 that we've never played live.
Do you think that there will be a catalyst to you guys playing those songs ever, or you think it's almost like cooler lore wise to just like, nope, never, you're never gonna see it in the live iteration?
I mean, maybe like there will be a show where it's like in 2026 we do 10 years of Axis of Equality or something like that.
Play it front to back.
And
yeah.
So like maybe, but like other than that, it's like, I just don't know if that, like, maybe it's me being too in my head, but I feel like it's almost like that doesn't feel like it contributes to our set like the way it should.
Yeah.
Essentially. So yeah, that's my thing.
So maybe the 10-year anniversary of that album, get your tickets. Not available anywhere right now, but put some money aside at the very least. Okay, jumping back to the record. We talked a little bit about like the sonic direction of a lot of these things. Were there any like lyrical songs that really you were really challenged by, and what did you do to overcome that?
lyrically, I think the whole record I was kind of challenged by, because I think that this record was like the most intentional I've tried to be with a bunch of the stuff I write.
Hmm.
And I mean that in the way of like making it cohesive to everything about the record.
Hmm.
Because before it was like, okay, I'm going to write these lyrics. You know, the record is loosely like political, this, that, the other thing. But with this record, it was like we're trying to create this visual world that we can like convey through the music and the art, the music video, and the lyrics have to be included in that too. So if I'm going post-apocalyptic desert, what can I like do that? What can I put into the lyrics to still convey what I want it to convey, but match the vibe of the record?
Hmm.
So that was super challenging for me. Um, if I were to say like a specific song that was super challenging to me, I think Paradigm Piercer, because it was just like, I want to make this as, how do I say this? Like, I wanted to make it as reachable as possible, but I also want to make it authentic to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to compromise that authenticity just for the sake of making it general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I pulled that off. Like the purpose behind that song was just like, I want it to be like, I want to make like a motivational song. What makes me motivated? What makes me feel like I can fucking run through a wall? And it was like, okay, I'll do this. And it worked out. So I think that like song by song, that was like the most challenging one. There's songs that I'm more proud of than that one, lyrically, but like that was definitely the most challenging one. Plus like vocal patterns too, like
Right. Yeah.
because you're trying to make it as reachable as possible while not compromising. So like adjusting lyrics to vocal patterns was hard too.
Yeah, I like the word choice, like being reachable, because at the end of the day, a lot of the records that we both love are because we found ways to insert ourselves in the lyrics, into the messaging and all those things, and find some identity there. So it's very easy to write something and I think every vocalist should have a bit of a variety, where there are some vocalists that I really like that are like writing about a very specific situation. They're like calling that person like out by name, and that could be anything from like a deadbeat dad to like whatever. So it's like I respect the artistic direction for some of those choices, but at the same time it's like, well, I don't know whoever this person is, but there are definitely records and songs that are like, whether it's the hook or the song name, or a specific line that like really connects with people. But at the same time, to your point, you need to make it authentic. You can't make it just like, you know, oh, this is just like top 40, but with breakdowns and distorted guitars.
Yeah, and I'm not interested in doing that either. Like
Right.
I don't want to make a song just for it to be big.
Hmm.
Like that's stupid. But like if I can make it more like if I because I know that like I've been the kid or the person who's like not invested into heavy music when I was a kid. What would what would take me from Volbeat and bring
Sure.
me
Yeah.
in,
Hmm.
and like where is that middle ground that brings that person in the middle essentially?
Yeah.
And it's like that's what I want,
Yeah. That's
like
that's
out of that.
interesting. Of like trying to write in mind of the person who's like only a few degrees off of your band, or
Yeah,
the DIY hardcore scene in general. I think that's very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, well because it's like not to, because I think that that can kind of be taken as like you're making the song to make your band bigger, but it's really like like if your goal is not to progress and like bring more people to the thing that you love so dearly, if it be your band or hardcore,
Hmm.
what's like it, you know what I mean? Like I think that there's a way to, because that's how I fell into it. I found a middle ground. Like I like when I found like Jabalba's video for Cold, low tuned breakdown at the end. Me as a deathcore kid found that And I was like, this is cool as shit. This music video is so violent. This looks crazy. It sounds crazy. There's a breakdown at the end. That did for me what that song might do for the kid who goes to big amphitheater shows
Yeah.
and might take them down the rabbit hole of like finding like Best Wishes by Chromax eventually.
Right.
That's fucking cool. And I want that for other people. Even if it's one or two people, like that can happen. Like that's what Power Trip did for a lot of people. Like a lot of metal fans listen to Executioner's Tax and they're like, oh my God, I gotta go see this band Power Trip. And then they have fucking, I don't know, Iron Age opening up for them. And they're like, oh my God, where did these guys come from?
And
These
then
are
Bitter
awesome.
End, and then down and down they go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, why not?
Yeah, and yeah, it's wild. I think a lot of people downplay like the biggest bands in the world right now. Like even if you're thinking of the Turnstiles and the Knock Looses, there is still like so many potential fans of that have never heard any of those tracks before. And the way that and those bands could just continue to play the biggest hardcore related things in the world, but to be able to do bigger scale things and talk to different people that again are only a few degrees off of it, that's the way that like local scenes grow, because there's a trickle down effect. And maybe, one of those bands is playing to 10,000 people at like a fucking Coachella or whatever, and then let's say 100 of those people are going to a local show that Knock Loose is headlining, and then like 10 of those people are going to the local show that Knock Loose is not playing. But then those 10 people are starting 10 of like the biggest new bands in 2027, like there's a bit of like of a just putting it out and letting things play out. And as you were mentioning, like, finding the Sabalba video, it would take a fucking long time, but I feel like if you zoomed out and you were able to write out how the very early heavy records of our time and how those got connected to other things, and found a undisputable pipeline when it comes to connecting people from those bigger bands to their local scene, it's doable. It would take a longest time, and it would be very interesting to be able to look at that. But it really is important for bands to not just like play within the hardcore bubble and to continue to do stuff outside of it, to in turn to get more people who can just be down for the core.
Yeah, well, and like the mantra that everybody says is like hardcore is for anybody, but it's not for everybody. That is how you find the people who are tailor made. There has to be a pipeline for people to come into this thing, figure out what it's about and why, if it's for them or not for them. And then that's how people end up contributing to this thing that we all love. And that's how it continues down the line. Like, I'm from West Texas, man. Like if there was not a direct pipeline of music from things I found on the internet, I don't know if Judiciary would be here today. That's like a butterfly effect that happens, but like the internet and finding things that connected dots are the reason why I'm here. And I've created this band, and I've booked shows, and I've done designs for these like hardcore bands. Like that's how you find people that are tailor made for it, and will carry this on to the next generation.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great segue into a Patreon question. So I don't know, Jake, if you saw, but we launched a Patreon just a month or so ago, and certain people of different tiers can submit questions when I drop that, you or anyone else is coming on the show. So if you want to, submit questions for the listeners, the link is in the description and all that. But I have a question from my buddy Matt, who wanted your thoughts on the Texas scene and how it's thriving and the current state of it right now, to like all the way back when you first were going to shows. Just talk to me about like, being someone that, is still contributing, but, you're of a certain generation where, you might not be able to go do as many shows and do as much with your bandwidth. Talk to me about that.
So the Texas scene right now is fucking cool. Like, and I think that like sometimes when you talk about like Texas hardcore in general, some people outside of the state don't really realize how far that reaches into like the music scene here. Like for instance, Narrowhead, not a hardcore band, full of hardcore guys. The drummer for Narrowhead, Carson, and the vocalist Jacob both play in Scourge.
Oh,
and
Scourge is sick. I really like that band.
Yeah, so like there's people like that exist within that. Like Jacob's played in Iron Age, like too. Like so like it's thriving because like there's like a culture of like people trying to do different and more. So like the hardcore scene lifts up Narrowhead because they're one of us essentially. But then there's like just true blue hardcore bands that are doing it loud and proud right now. Like I mentioned Scourge. I don't know when, but they have a record on the way. So that's going to be huge. And then there's bands like here in the scene of San Antonio, like Future Shock. They are a local band that is fucking unbelievable. I love those guys. But like they just announced that they're going to do an LP on Cash Only Records, which is the guys from Akulu. Started a record label.
Sick.
Yeah. So and another.
I hope
another
that they
Texas
accept
guy,
Cash Only. Played
so
the meme.
Another Texas guy, Connor, who plays guitar in Akulu is from Texas. But so like there's Future Shock, and then like that extends into the punk scene, like the Unit from San Antonio, and then there's bands from Dallas like Yeta Panel. And then like up in Dallas, they have Ozone, they have Visions of Mortality, they have Mass Appeal, they have Earn. Like
Deep Incision is also from Texas, right?
Yeah, Deep Incision's from DFW. Houston, like, you know, Omerta has stepped away from like the sound of hardcore. But like they go to shows.
Yeah.
They know, they've been in bands like their singer was in that band Drown, Sentence to Burn.
Yeah. Gus has been on the podcast before. I love that band and I love that dude.
Yeah, he's awesome. But like it's active and people really want to do things here, and people really take up for their cities and their scenes here. Like Texas is, I think it's because it's so insulated, and like it's kind of hard, like especially if you're one, like we had a hard time breaking into the Texas for Texas like mentality because of like we were from West Texas. Nobody ever comes from West Texas, so it's like it took us years to like play Dallas because of politics. Like I think they thought that we like maybe weren't with it, which like fair, they don't know us, and B, like I think they just thought we were dorks, like, which also fair. Sure. Like, but yeah, right now Texas is in a good place, and I think that it's just going to go up from here because there's bands that are hungry and there's scenes that are making, you know, when people come through, they know it's going to be good, like San Antonio. So yeah, Texas rocks, man.
Yeah, I feel like because the state is so big, that's an unintentional pun, but like because there's so much landmass and there's so many like specific scenes within one, you know, Texas hardcore scene, if you want to spin it that way, it allows bands to play multiple scenes. It allows, you know, those bands to go up to those cities and towns. It kind of like the only thing in Canada, because most of the provinces out here like have one like main city with one specific scene. The only outlier is kind of like Ontario, but again, that's just because it's so big and there's so many little things in there. But Alberta, where I'm from, you know, unfortunately, Judiciary hasn't played there, which we talked about on the first podcast as well. But, you know, having Calgary here and then Edmonton, which my new band's playing a show tonight. So we're ripping up like pretty much right after this podcast to go and play that. I think that there's always going to be like some friendly banter when it comes to like different scenes as far as like, you know, like in Alberta specifically has like a very like sports related rivalry, so I think that bleeds into some other things when even if you outside of hardcore just like, oh, you're from Edmonton, I'm sorry about that, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So but
Oilers fucking suck. Like
yeah, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, the only good thing to happen to the Oilers is Connor McDavid before Wayne Great or after Wayne Gretzky. But
Yeah.
at least at the last local show that happened here, there was like at least a dozen people that drove down from Edmonton to Calgary, and I know that there's a ton of people driving up for the show that's happening tonight. So I think, to your point, I think not like scene politics, but people that locally judged you because you were just a town over and thought you were corny or whatever. I I would hope and I think that's a thing of the past. And obviously there's always going to be little things where, people will poke fun, but I don't think it's going to be like I think it's gone of the days of I'm not booking you or I'm not going to mosh or I'm going to like publicly talk shit about your band because you're an hour away. I think that's gone and over, but I don't know if you agree or disagree.
So for us, the bridges are built, like we're good. Like, but like what the thing is when you say like you're just a town over, we are 6 hours away.
Right.
Like I like that's basically like saying like, oh, you're from North Carolina, you're a Baltimore local, like essentially, like
right.
it's essentially the same distance, like, and like we're from a different world, like, and it's so isolated there that it's just like we don't know any of you guys. We have no mutual friends to be like, hey, these guys are cool. Like, so it's like we're going in dry and just trying to like, make sure that that we're not like trying to like change anything or damage anything here. The only scene that welcomed us with open arms was San Antonio. From the start, they were so welcoming to us. They gave us like they gave us shows to play, like always thankful for San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
But like the reality of it is like, when you go to another place and like the scene has a little bit more different of a vibe, like that can happen. And like we kind of just had to like prove ourselves there.
Yeah.
And since then, like everything's fine. Like the people who may have like tried to keep us out before, it's like they've recognized that, and we're cool. Like it's good. But yeah, it was a hard go for a while just because 6 hours is a long way.
Right. I've heard you mention San Antonio welcoming you very early with open hours, and like you said, like the bridges are built, everything's kosher and good now. Do you want to drop which scene was the last to maybe accept the judiciary machine, or do you want to keep that off the record?
I mean, it was Dallas. Like it took us years for us to play Dallas, and it was because of that. Like the only reason we played Dallas for the first time was because there was a band on tour that was friends with us, and they knew that we lived in Texas, and they said, "Hey, do you want to play our Dallas show?" And so we said yes. That was the only reason we played for the first time. We tried to get on like into like the DIY scene in DFW, and they did not want to book us. So like, yeah, it was Dallas, but since then, like, Dallas is one of our best fucking cities that we play. Honestly, like, and it's awesome. Like, I fucking love playing in Dallas. So, but yeah, it was a long run coming. Houston also is like a little. It wasn't because of scene politics. It's just because like the distance.
Right.
That is a 9-hour drive from Lubbock to get to Houston. Like that. I could drive 9 hours and be in Denver too, but like we're not Denver hardcore.
Right.
Like we're Texas hardcore, so we're connected to the scene somehow. So like, yeah, they took a while too, but like mostly like they were a little bit more welcoming to us. But yeah, it took a while, but it's good now.
So talking a lot about different cities in Texas, so I've prepared something for us here today. So I have real or fake Texas town names. So I'm going to hit you. I'm not going to give away that it's a 50-50 split or anything like that, but I have a list here of a bunch of towns. All of them have really redonkulous names in my opinion, but I'm going to toss them up to you and you're going to tell me if they're real or fake. I'm putting you on the spot as far as how much you know about your Texas geography.
I feel like some of them may be in West Texas, and I'm pretty versed in that.
Okay.
Because a bunch of the town names up there are so literal, it's insane. I'll get into that after, but yeah.
Okay, so the first real or fake Texas town name is Crawfish.
Crawfish.
Crawfish, Texas.
That's fake.
You're right. It is fake.
Okay. Gotcha.
One for one. Next is Gun Barrel City, Texas.
That's real.
That is real. Okay, yeah. We're going. I'm impressed. Okay, so next up is Ding Dong, Texas. Ding Dong, Texas.
I could see that being real, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's real.
It is real. Ding Dong, Texas is real. If you're listening from Ding Dong, shout out.
Shout out Ding
Dong. Basswood, Texas.
Basswood. That sounds like a real place. I'm going with a real.
That's actually a fake.
Really?
I duped you because I went to San Antonio and Lubbock and looked up a couple street names, and I was like, oh, maybe I can throw you off. So I'm glad that you didn't have a perfect score just yet, because
okay.
haters will say it's fake. Raisin, Texas.
Raisin, Texas.
Like the dried grape raisin.
I'm gonna say that's real.
You are right, sir. You are 4 for 1 right now.
Yeah, I just pictured like the side of like a wooden like place where you get like bait for a lake, and like have a mural that says "Raisin, welcome to Raisin, Texas."
Welcome to Raisin.
Yeah.
I hope there's like a Raisin Cane's there at the very least. Do you guys have Raisin Cane's?
Oh yeah, okay. Brother.
Raisin Cane's in Raisin, Texas. Let's hope.
I hope so. I hope it happens.
Toast, Texas.
Toast, Texas.
Because there's Texas Toast. So
that's another place I feel like is real.
That's actually, I've duped you on that.
Okay, I was gonna say it feels fake. So yeah, but happens.
Yeah. Okay, 4 for 2. Still looking really, really good. Nemo, Texas.
I think that's real.
That is real. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The place I pulled this from they did a Nemo and then Dory back to back, and then Dory's obviously fake, but you know, Nemo, Texas. I'm sure anyone from there it's a requirement to watch Finding Nemo. But
yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, a couple more. Excuse me. Cut and Shoot, Texas.
Cut and Shoot, Texas. I mean, if there's a Gun Barrel City, I'm gonna go yes on Cut and Shoot, Texas.
Yeah, you're right on that. It's wild. Like this, three words for one town name.
Yeah.
Nimrod, Texas.
Nimrod, Texas. I'm gonna say that's real too.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, I apologize to anyone that grows up there, because we never get to live that one down. Big Star, Texas.
Big Star, Texas. See, that's one where you would think it's real, but I'm gonna say it's fake.
That's a fake one that I made up. So your pulse on this is very accurate. This is an A- run, in my opinion.
I'm from a town like outside of Lubbock called New Deal, Texas.
New Deal was another one, but I was like, that's too close to Lubbock, so I didn't want to toss that up.
That's where me and Austin grew up.
Right.
Like, yeah. So like I've seen a bunch of these small town names. I got it.
So what are we at score wise right now? 6 of 2? One of those? I'll hit you with 2 more.
Okay.
Melanie, Texas.
Melanie, Texas sounds real.
Are you sure?
That sounds like where like a pro wrestler's from like cowboy. I'm gonna go yes on Melanie, Texas.
So that's not true. But again, that was
really?
Another thing where I duped you, because that's a street in Lubbock. I was like, oh, that could sound like a town name.
Yeah.
So
cool, because I was thinking like Victoria, Texas. Like there could be a Melanie, Texas.
Right. Okay, last one. Earth, Texas.
That's real.
That is real.
Yeah, my New Deal, my school played. There's a school called Spring Lake Earth, and we played football against Spring Lake Earth. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with. I've been to Earth, Texas.
Well, very impressed with your knowledge of that. Maybe the last thing off of that subject is there any other weird Texas town names that I missed or that you would like to plug?
So when I say that there's like literal names in Texas, around Lubbock, there's a few that is like just funny. Like Brownfield is a town in Texas.
Right.
Level land. Like, and like Lubbock is super flat. Like that's like 30 minutes outside of Lubbock in super flat land.
Right.
It's level land, Texas. It's one word.
They just showed up. They're like, well, there's a lot of level land here. You know what?
Yeah. And then there's Littlefield. So there's Brownfield and Littlefield, pretty close to each other, near level land. And then north of Lubbock, 45 minutes north, there's a town called Plainview.
Plainview.
Because you're viewing the plains in Plainview.
Man.
We're simple folk.
I like whoever named Ding Dong, Texas needed to be out there to help name, add a little bit of pizzazz to some of those, because Littlefield, Big Field, Brownfield, slightly less Brownfield, but yeah. Lubbock is at least a cooler name, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
If it was like Judiciary from Plainview, Texas, it'd be like, excuse me?
That would be insane if we were from Plainview. It'd be a sad existence. But no diss to Plainview.
Yeah.
I had an aunt that lived there.
Another Texas thing that we did not talk about, but I've had a Bucky's experience because Endgame played Oklahoma, but we flew to Houston and drove up first, and we hit up multiple Bucky's on the way.
Yeah.
Your best and worst Bucky's experience. And do you want to explain what Bucky's is for the few folks that have not had the pleasure?
So Bucky's is a gas station, but it is the size of a grocery store. Mm-hmm. That is the best way I can put it. And it's not just a gas station where they have gas pumps and then you go inside and there's chips and drinks. It has an entire merch store. You can buy like coolers, you can buy, I think they have like trailers for sale. You can buy like their merch store is insane. Like they have everything that you could build an entire Bucky's outfit if you wanted to. They have hot food. So they have like barbecue sandwiches, pork sandwiches, turkey sandwiches. They have a bakery where you can go buy like Danishes and like fudge and shit like that. And they have the cleanest bathrooms known to man.
I have to agree, because every time I went in there having I've been drinking too much coffee on this drive and I need to unload, it was like, I feel bad because this place is spotless and I am not adding to the cleanliness of this by any means.
I would eat off the floor of a Bucky's bathroom. Like it's so ridiculous, but like they have somebody in there at all times cleaning. Like, so it's that's a shitty job, no pun intended. But yeah, like it's just a giant gas station. They probably have like 50 gas pumps outside, if not more, and just everything you would want. So yeah, but best and worst experience, I don't have like a number one like worst experience, but I will tell you. So in the summer, I go up to Austin a lot because like I have a bunch of friends that live there. It's only an hour and a half away from San Antonio. And like Austin has like really good swimming spots and stuff like that. But in New Braunfels, Texas, which is right in the middle,
okay,
which is 45 minutes away from San Antonio. It's like right in the middle of that drive. There's a Bucky's off the highway, And in the summer, on the weekend, if you go there, the parking lot is full. You're dodging big giant trucks with boats attached to them because in New Braunfels there's lakes like everywhere. And then what a bunch of people do in like New Braunfels and San Marcos, there's rivers, like river spots where you can rent tubes and float the river, which is like super good because the water's super cold. It's hot as hell during the summer.
Right.
So like perfect swimming like weather, and you don't need like a boat or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if you go during the summer, you're dodging giant trucks with boats in this parking lot. The parking lot's full. People are getting coolers, filling them with ice, like, and you walk into the store and you're like dodging, like it feels like you're just like, you know, trying to juke people out like the whole time,
right?
Just to get yourself like a fucking yerba mate. Like it's insane, and I hate going there during busy times because it just stresses me out to no end.
Yeah, like your comparison to the size being of a grocery store level is dead on. I would almost argue that the layout and the busyness really reminds me of being at a Costco on a Saturday. It's just like it's crazy.
I always say that it feels like, and I hope this isn't insensitive, it feels like what I imagine like a FEMA relief center would be if there was a hurricane. Like it feels like people are just running around left and right, grabbing what they can, and they're just like, I got to get back to my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to bring back these goods to my family.
Right.
And you're like, that's how I feel. I'm just like, oh my God, where, like, I got to get this. Oh my God, I need something to eat.
And it's
Here's
weird.
some summer sausage
you
and
don't
cheese.
see that until you walk through the doors. You could be outside and could be like, oh yeah, it's busy here. And as soon as you see, like, I think there is a weird thing where it's like you see other people acting a certain way and you get like, you can't just be a cool cucumber when a Bucky's is booming.
Yeah. And then like, because if you are, then you're in people's way. That's the way I see it. But like, oh, and then when the fucking beaver comes out, like in the costume, and people want to take pictures, there's a line that forms for that guy. Like, it's insane. But I do love Bucky, like, but I have a love-hate relationship with Bucky's because it stresses me out a lot. Best Bucky's experience, I would say, like, if I could put it in a hypothetical scenario, because I know this has happened before. It's like 8:30 p.m. and all the hot food and everything is still open, but it's not as busy. I can take my time walking in there. You know, I gas up, I go inside, I can like kind of browse. I don't feel like I'm like that is my best Bucky's experience. That's definitely happened a few times. It's like when the extra amenities are still open, but it's not a madhouse. That's when it's
exactly.
Like beautiful.
Have bands from Texas done Bucky's rips? I'm sure.
I'm sure. I don't like. There's no way it hasn't happened. I've seen bands from outside of Texas do Bucky's rips. Like,
oh, well, that feels a little inauthentic because Bucky's is only in Texas.
Well, no, it's actually, I think they have them in Florida now.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but it's like known as a Texas thing.
Of course, yeah.
Like there is no way, and if they're listening to this, there is no way the Acacia Strain hasn't done a Bucky shirt. Like,
Vince, are you listening?
They love Bucky's. I know for a fact because Vincent told me that every time he goes to a Bucky's, he gets some piece of merch. And like he has a collection. Like I remember when we were on tour with him, he had like a Halloween Bucky shirt where he was like, it was like a vampire Bucky. So like if they haven't done it, that's insane.
I feel like out of any non-Texas band, the Acacia Strain is maybe the only exception when it comes to bands who could do that in an authentic way.
I think Tsunami did it too. Like I want to say they did the beaver, and then instead of SUNAMI, they did SUNAMEE. So like tsunami. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did that. I might be wrong though. If I'm imagining that, next time they come to Texas, they have to. But yeah,
I'm gonna message. I don't know if he'll see it, but I'll ask because I think Tsunami's leaving for their tour today. But I'll just be like,
yeah.
"Yo, podcast question: Did Tsunami do a Bucky's?" Oh, that's too many E's. Bucky's rip.
You can do extra E's. I feel like it's on brand.
Sometimes I'm always like, am I spelling this right? Buccee? Oh no, that's not
Yeah,
right.
It's BUCC-EE.
Oh yes, the dash. Yeah.
Yeah, Bucky's.
Bucky's.
There's a saying in the judiciary van that I think Austin coined that we just say I fuckies with Bucky's.
Oh, he's seen it. I feel like I should wait until last year.
I told you. I knew I didn't imagine that.
We had to fact check.
Yo, Spencer.
Yeah, what's up?
Check your Facebook Messenger. I sent you a picture of the shirt.
Oh, thank you, Jordan. Production of the show. Yo, it's a beaver pin.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, I have to lock my iPhone.
What does it say on the back? I can't remember.
It says it's a beaver bitch.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
Okay.
It is a beaver.
So two exceptions for non-Texas bands, but for any of the Texas bands listening, get on it. Don't let these other bands take it away.
I could see Omerta making some fucking scribbled logo of a Bucky's and fucking making it have one eye or something like that. But like,
do you know the Houston band Mexican Coke?
Oh yeah, they rock.
I feel like we rode up. Endgame rode up with them for Act Like You Know Fest. So we flew to Houston. They treated us insanely well, and then rode up with them. I feel like they could do a Bucky's rip, but with the balaclava over the Bucky's beaver.
Bucky's holding the shotgun.
Joey, I'm making merch ideas for you on the podcast here.
The goddamn blunderbuss that he wields.
Dude, yeah. So this whole tangent about a gas station, if you are listening and you ever get the chance to go to a Bucky's in Texas or in Florida, I guess where I feel like a true authentic experience is in Texas. But yeah,
it's like In-N-Out in California.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's different because it's like it's something that's traditionally one thing, but it's like totally on steroids and like over the top. But
yeah, that's the thing is like when you go to the merch side, there's a side across from it that has like wall paintings and stuff like that. And if you haven't seen a repurposed picket fence that you can hang on your wall that is painted as if it's the Texas flag, that's when you know you're in a true Bucky's.
100%.
I don't know what they would have in Florida in that section, but that's what you find in Texas.
I don't know. Probably like a Florida Man article that's painted on the Texas.
A taxidermy gator or something like that. Yeah.
A couple other questions, Jake, before we wrap up. Why do you hate diesel vans so much?
Holy shit! Who fucking asked that?
I have my research.
You have to. Okay. Wait, so you're asking like somebody told you about this? Was it Jimmy?
There is someone who will remain nameless who was saying that I should ask you about why you hate diesel so much. So,
oh my god! So this is one of the most embarrassing stories ever, which is fine. I'll tell it because it's a lesson for everybody, and it was definitely a lesson for me. So when we did the inclination shows, we rented this van that we shared with World I Hate. Mm-hmm. So we played Louisville, and we were driving from Louisville to Chicago, and we stopped in Indiana for gas. Jake Phillips van. So I was like, cool. Grab the green nozzle, put it in, click the thing, gassing it up. And then I look, and I'm like, how much does gas cost here? I look, and I see that it says regular on the thing that I clicked. And I was like, oh God. And I like take it out. I'm already $40 in. Like I didn't just put a little in. I was filling this thing
Right.
up. So I had a moment where I was like, shit, now I have to tell these guys. And I was like, how bad could it be? And I was like, no, don't do that. I was like, don't just act like you didn't just do that. So I wanted to like fucking break down to my knees in that moment, but I didn't. And I go and I tell everybody what happened. And the reason why is because every other fucking gas station, the diesel nozzle is green. But BP, for some reason, has their regular as green and the diesel is black.
Oh,
so
that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So I was on autopilot, grabbed the green, put it in.
Right.
And then I was also on autopilot and I have regular gas in my car. So I just clicked regular.
Right.
But like, because if I would have picked the diesel one and I clicked regular, it wouldn't have worked. So like, yeah, I fucking put regular gas in a diesel van, which is fucking stupid. If nobody knows the effects of that, a diesel engine, diesel fuel acts like a lubricant and a gas. So where your regular car works off of gas and oil, diesel is the thing that keeps it going.
It's doing the work of two. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you put regular gas in, the engine will seize because there's no lubricant. So we don't start the van. We call AAA. We try to siphon the gas out first. And we got like the shittiest siphon ever. It wasn't working. So we were like, okay, fuck, what do we do now? We called AAA to see if they can help us with anything. And then by some fucking miracle, we're standing there and this guy in another Sprinter, like a commercial van, pops up next to us. And somebody's like, let's just like ask that guy if he knows anything about anything. And they go over and he's like, oh yeah, I have all the tools in the back of my van. I can drop your fuel tank, we'll empty it, and then we'll fill it back up with diesel. And we just got so lucky, and that's what he did. Like he fucking like he got under the car, did his thing, dropped the fuel tank in an oil pan. So we emptied all the gas into oil pan and then poured the oil pan stuff into different gas containers that we disposed of. And like,
yeah, you're like you can't really, yeah.
Properly, we didn't just dump gas on the side of a highway.
Yeah.
But like we like emptied it out. He hooked the fuel tank back up under the van. We filled it with diesel and it was fine.
Wow.
Yeah. So like we got super
lucky. There's a timeline
and,
where you don't ask that dude and you are still at that gas station to this day.
Yeah. Well, and like he kind of got lucky too because one of the guys that was with us works for a tool company and he's like, hey, let me know what you want. I can get you something for free. He was like, I need a new angle grinder. So that's great. So he got like some new tools out of it. We paid him money too. Like he was a fucking guardian angel in that moment. But yeah, that is why it literally one of the stupidest times. Like, feel free to roast me about it. I deserve it. I was terrified of going to the show and facing Caleb from Inclination. I was like, he's gonna fucking make fun of me so bad. I was like, I just know it. It was funny because Jimmy called him and he's like, hey, we're gonna be late. He's like, this is what happened. And Caleb was like, who fucking did it? And he was like, it was just somebody. It's not important. And because if it was one of the Milwaukee guys in World I Hate, like Mitch was with us. He was like, if it was Mitch, he would have been like, it was fucking Mitch, of course. He's like, but because it wasn't Mitch and he wouldn't tell him, he was like, was it Jake? And he had mercy on me. And when I got to the show, he like hugged me. He's like, all right. Like everybody does some bullshit every now and then. Like, so he was they gave me a lot of grace. Everybody did. So I appreciate them for that. But that is one of my less fun stories.
You're not a diesel driver. And this place, it was like, let's just swap up the colors. Why not? Because I think up in Canada, all the diesel plugs are that colored, like yellow or green or something like that.
Something other than black is always diesel.
Yeah.
And like so yeah, it was just fucking like, and like everybody we showed it to that we talked to, they were like, "Oh my god, why is this green?" And we're like, "Oh, we know." Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's always been that thing where it's like you never put diesel in the gas, and I was always like, oh well, what would happen, and what would you need to do? And now, if anything out of this, borderline embarrassing story for you, there's probably hopefully some educational things that people can take away. Don't turn the car on or do any of that. Ask
No.
someone for help and try to reset the gas tank. And 3, look before you pump. I guess that could be
Yeah.
taken
If that
very
ever
sexually, but
if that ever happens and you don't just happen upon somebody who can drop your fuel tank at a gas station, uh, best advice you can do is tow that shit to an auto shop and they can do it for you.
Mhm.
But like, don't start the car.
Yes,
That's rule number 1.
yes,
Because otherwise you're replacing everything
Mhm.
in that car, essentially.
Yeah. Well, that is wild. I can't like. I think I would. I've had those moments as well. Not like auto related, but just certain things where you're like, did I fucking just do this? And you're
That
like,
was
all right, I've just created a sitcom episode for me and the band on their way to the show right now. So,
my stomach was in my ass when I realized it sucked.
one of the last questions, Jake, before we start to wrap up, and I alluded to this, and Jimmy told me to reach out because it sounds like there are some dodging of bullets in your time, and it sounds like has been good to you in some cases where you've met your partner through a ride. You mentioned that on Hardlore as well. So the other side of that was, um, you know, being shot at. And again, if you don't want to hit on that, if that's something that's a little too dicey, we can totally skip that. But
No, I can talk about it. One thing I will say, I cannot mention the company that it happened for. Usually, when people mention rideshare driving, they would say, "Oh, you were Ubering." It happened for a rideshare company. That is all I'll say.
yeah, do
Because
we need
they're
to bleep it out?
uh, yeah.
Okay,
It like so it. I'll tell you, it was. But I there's an NDA in place.
gotcha.
Um,
Jordan,
but I can.
if you wouldn't mind bleeping out, you know what? But the rideshare company that most people know, or that the rideshare
One of
company in
them.
general, one of them.
One of them.
Talk to me about that story.
So I can tell you what's already out in the public because it was a news story, and I did interviews before I signed that work. Um, so basically, what happened? I between tours, I would do driving to make extra money. And like if you're touring a lot, like regular jobs, that aren't just like remote jobs, won't let you do that. So I would do that as like a free for all job kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take like freelancing stuff, do like DoorDash delivery, stuff like that, just to keep my bills paid and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in a college town, you make the bulk of your money on drinking night, going and picking up people from bars. That's where the good money is. So it's about 2:30 in the morning. That's when 2 o'clock is when the bars close in Lubbock. Usually I'll take one person after the bars close and then I go home. I took my one person. I'm about to turn off the app and then I get a request. It's like, go pick up somebody from the Blue Light, which is a country bar.
Mm.
And so I go and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, one more, whatever. Click it. Go to the Blue Light. There is a guy that comes out and he's like, hey man, like my friends are around the corner getting some barbecue. Like, can you hang around for a second? Because there's a barbecue place that stays open until 3 around the corner called Biggie's. Super good. I was kind of jealous. I wanted a sausage wrap, but beside the point. So I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So me and him are talking for like a minute, and then in the middle of us talking, his friend runs around the corner, sees him in my car, and he's like, hey, this group of guys is trying to fight our friends. Like, we got to go break it up. And he's like, hey man, can you wait here for a second? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
You're like, I hope he wasn't going to be like, can you join in? Can you get on our team?
No, I'm good. Well, so like I previously had picked up people from arguments with their boyfriends, girlfriends. I've literally picked somebody up from, I drove up and this girl was on top of another girl just punching, and then they put her in my car, and I was like, God Christ. Which, like,
wait, they put the girl who was getting beat up in the car?
No, the girl that was beating the other girl up. I picked these people up, and I pulled up, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. I was watching, and this guy on the side was like, this guy on the side was like, stop, our Uber's here. And there was like 3 cars by me, and I was like, damn, sucks for that guy. And he scoops this girl up, and she's like yelling and puts her in my car, and like I was like, oh, God, that's beside the point.
Right.
So I was like, it's probably just like drunk dudes arguing. It's gonna be fun. So I'm on my phone for like a minute, and then I hear commotion like behind my car, and I look in my rearview mirror, and I just see cowboys get knocked out left and right. Like the other guys are beating the shit out of these guys. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to take these guys. Yeah. So I was going to drive off, but then they like migrated in front of my car, and then another car pulled up behind me. So I couldn't go anywhere. So I'm just watching this fight unfold basically on the hood of my car. And then they break up because one of the bars across the street has a fake police siren that they use like to scare people off at the end of the night. Oh, and okay. Yeah, it's like an outdoor patio bar. This is like a well-renowned area in Lubbock for bars. Sure. Like there's bars, there's like 2 streets of a lot of bars. And so they set up the police siren. I thought it was real. So I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not driving away because the police are here. I don't want to like catch a charge for something I'm not involved in. Right. Like, and so like leaving the scene or fleeing from somebody or something like that. So I'm sitting there and my car's unlocked. Those cowboy guys that I was going to pick up jump into my car, and I'm like, hey, no, like get out. I'm not going to be your getaway driver here. And they're like, no, if we get out, like they're going to beat the shit out of us. And I was like, I don't know you guys, man. Like, I don't like. And so I was like, I'm not going to get in trouble for you guys. Like, get out of my car. So while I'm arguing with them, the other guys walk beside my car. One of them punches the side of my car. One of them says something in the window. I don't know. I don't remember what he said. And so when he punches my car, I start screaming at these guys, get the fuck out. Like, I don't. Yeah, you're like, okay, this is getting way too crazy. Yeah, and now it's affecting me because there could be a dent in the side of my car. So I'm arguing with them, and while we're arguing, all we hear is just pop, 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 pop. And basically what had happened was the other guys walk like 10 yards behind my car. One of them pulls what I think was a 45 out of his waistband, tosses it to his buddy, and they're walking across the street behind my car, and he's just letting him fly. In my car, I start freaking out. I put my head down, and I'm like, holy fuck. Can't get my car on because I'm like freaking out and panicky because I turned it off to tell them they need to get out. Yeah. So it takes me a second to get my car on, and I finally get my car on, and one of the guys in the back says like, I'm hit. And so I take off finally. I get like 2 blocks over, and like me and his friends all thought that he was just saying he was hit to get me to go because they were begging me to go before that. And like in my mind, it was like, oh, maybe they were just sending warning shots like in the air. Sure. Like to scare us. Sure. And then so I get around the corner. I'm like, I put the car in park. I'm like, get the fuck out. Like, and I'm like, one of the guys in the back seat tries to like fight me, but he walks away because he thought it was my fault that happened because I didn't go when they told me to. That's beside the point. But while I'm arguing with this guy, I look in at the guy who said he was hit. He's getting out of the car, and I see just a hole in the back of his shirt with a little spot of blood. And I look at my back seat, and there is a matching hole with a matching spot of blood in my back seat.
Dude.
So I'm like, oh my God, like get back in. Like, let's go. I speed to the hospital. That drive should have taken me like 10, 15 minutes. I made it in 5. That's how fast I was driving. And I was blowing through stoplights, everything like that.
Yeah.
And
at least at this point, it's like 2:30 in the morning. So there's not like any traffic for you to be super concerned of.
Yeah, exactly. And make to the hospital, he hobbles inside. And that was and like on the way to the hospital, he's saying like his vision's going and everything like that. It was super scary.
God, dude.
He spent a week in the ICU because it hit his kidney and his small intestine, I believe.
Wow.
So it was pretty serious, but and then that I like.
So you saved this guy's life to a degree.
I guess like he made it to the hospital when he needed to, for sure. Yeah. He wasn't like bleeding out super heavy. I think his body was in shock. But like it was pretty fucking crazy. Yeah. And then like we got to the hospital and the police showed up like 5 minutes later because obviously they got calls. Right. Yeah. And one of the guys called like when we got there and called them and said like, hey, like we took this guy to the hospital. We're here right now. Mm-hmm. And so I fucking had to talk to them, and they dug the bullets out of my car, or most of them. There's still one that's laying around in there. Yes, my car got hit 7 times. Wow. Mostly in my back tailgate. The only one that went all the way through was the one that hit the guy in the back. There was one that ricocheted off my door. Wow. If it was at the right angle, it probably could have hit my leg. So yeah, that happened. One funny thing that I'll mention, or two, when the guy said his vision was starting to go because his drunk idiot friends are with him. His drunk idiot friends are like, "Nah, man, you're just drunk. Like it's fine."
You're like, have you not recalled the last 5 minutes that have been going here?
And then when I called the rideshare company after it happened, because I was like, I feel like they should know what just happened. Right. Yeah. I called them and they outsourced their call centers to like India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, somewhere around there. So there's like a translation barrier. And the lady I talked to, I was like, hey, just wanted to tell you, I don't know what to do here, like regarding you guys, but my car just got shot at. And she was like, what do you mean your car just got shot at? Like she didn't understand what I was saying. Right. And she was like, I was like, somebody fired a gun at my car multiple times. And she goes, like, they're at a call center. And she goes, oh my God. Like, and I was just like, lady, like I should be the one freaking out right now. And so it was a whole process with that company. But yeah, so that is how I dodged a few bullets. Apparently.
That is wild. But again, yeah. I think like there's a timeline where like you're like, get the fuck out of here, and maybe he says I'm hit like not in the car, and you know it's a way sadder of a story. But at the very least, you were able to be like, okay, time to fucking baby driver this shit, and just rip it to the hospital, and that's insane. Was that the last time that you drove for that company, or were you like, all right, I guess I gotta go make some bread somehow?
So after that happened, obviously I was like not in the mindset to be able to do that. It was very jarring.
Oh yeah.
It'd
be hard to get behind the wheel in general for at least a couple weeks.
Yeah. And like, it was very, very hard to process, but like, I got through it and like I'm fine now, but like at the time it definitely set in some like longer term panic. Sure, and like trepidation about what I'm doing at night and everything like that. Yeah. Way more aware of my surroundings now, which is a good lesson to learn, but it sucks that I had to learn it that way. So after that happened, my old job, I worked at Costco at the time. they called me back. I had to quit for a tour, and they called me, and they were just like, "Hey, you can have your job back, like if you want to stop driving." And I was like, "I will go back to Costco, thank you." So they were super super like great to me, like that
Right.
they didn't have to do that.
Well,
so I went back.
Did
and
they
worked
see
at
it
Costco.
on the news? Is that how they kind of? Wow. Okay, so
Yeah,
this was like very public, like where you're from.
Yeah, and like it was on the news. There was video. Somebody inside the bar was taking a video of the fight and got video of the bullets coming
Oh
out
my
my car.
God, that's crazy.
And so they saw it on the news, and then it turned into like a national thing too. Like affiliates of the news station captured the story. Like somebody from Ohio reached out to me and said they saw it, and then like Vice picked it up too. And so it turned into a whole thing. But yeah, they saw it on the news and called me. Like one of the managers called me and was just like, "Hey, you can have your job back if you want it." And so yeah, I worked there for a while, and then like eventually I was like, okay, like I could use some extra money. I will do this, but I'm going to be very very careful. I'm not gonna stay out till after the bars, and if I do, like I'm not picking up anybody from a bar,
right,
or anything like that.
Yeah,
like that I'm good on that. So yeah, I did it like sparingly after a while. But and if I never went back to driving, I would have never met my girlfriend. So
right,
trade off.
Yeah,
and I can say which company that one was for. That was
oh yeah.
I met my girlfriend.
We like because it, it's unlikely, but can match up some other people we don't like, or I won't say we don't like, but yeah, a good yin and yang moment for sure. But at the very least, Judiciary has a new record where y'all will be out on the road and rocking instead of having to drive some cowboys that are getting into too much trouble. Jake, This has been a fantastic conversation. Really happy to have you back on the show. Like we did before, we always end with a favorite Mosh story. I know that we talked about the Air Max print to the face last time. So whatever other Mosh story that you would like to end on is how we start to wrap up the show.
So off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of, this was a Lubbock show way back when I was probably like 20, 21. And there was a band from Lubbock that was fucking awesome called Heaven's Final War.
Heaven's Final War?
Yeah,
wow.
Named after the Integrity song.
Yeah.
But it was Israel, who plays guitar in Judiciary, Phil, who sings in the band from Lubbock called Flesh Rot, the death metal band, Eli, who drums for Future Shock down here in San Antonio, and then this other guy named James who sings in this local band called Tiger Splitter. They made a band, and it was fucking awesome. Check it out if you haven't. It's still on Bandcamp. But they were playing a show, and usually they're like the guys that the 15 people that went to local shows in Lubbock loved that band. We would mosh the whole time, and they had this one breakdown that was really really good, and I was moshing, and one of my friends, Abel, was also moshing, and we didn't know that each other were in proximity to us. I feel somebody hit me in the back of the head, so naturally my instinct was like, bring in a receipt, let's go. And I swing back like this, and I hit Abel right here in the ribs. And when I hit, my shoulder, like the impact, put my shoulder out of socket. So I hit, and I go, it just immediately like dings like that. And months later, like I like sat aside for the whole show. Abel was still like doing his thing, whatever. Months later, Abel was cutting my hair because he's a barber. And I go to Abel and I was like, dude, do you remember that like one Heaven's Final War show? I forget who they were playing with. I was like, yeah, I like hit somebody like super hard and my shoulder dislocated. And he was like, wait, was that this show? He was like, you hit me and you fractured my ribs like when you did that.
Right.
So in one swing, I dislocated my shoulder and fractured Abel's rib.
Right.
same time, and we didn't know for months that it was each other that did that.
So funny. Most of the time, people will swing unknowingly, breaking someone's nose, or they see it. But the fact that there was impacts to both of y'all off of that interaction, and then you didn't even realize, and you guys are homies. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous. But yeah, that was the first story that came to my mind.
Yeah. So Jake, this has been a fantastic convo. We've hit on a lot of dope stuff about the band, as well as just like random little funny stories from your life. Talked a lot about Texas. Anything that you want to plug, anything you want to shout out, or anything you want to send the people off with as we wrap up the show. Obviously, all your links will be in the description and in the show notes. But if there's anything you want to send the people off with, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah. Flesh and Blood is out March 10th. Pre-orders, records, CDs, merch is up over at judiciarytx.com/closedcasketactivities.com. Super proud of it. So I hope that you guys like it. We have our record release shows in Texas coming up March 31st, April 1st, and April 2nd in Lubbock, Dallas, and Austin. And the lineup is fucking crazy. It is Judiciary, Inclination, Tribal Gaze, and Future Shock on all the dates.
Okay.
We convinced Inclination to go to Lubbock on purpose, which is cool. So yeah, it's going to be cool. Like Tribal Gaze is fucking awesome. If you guys haven't listened to them, it's one of my favorite records of 2022. Great death metal band. Future Shock is going to be coming up. Their 2 releases are fucking awesome. And then opening up the show in Lubbock, we got Flesh Rot, death metal from Lubbock. And then in Dallas, we have Mass Appeal, which is a new hardcore band from Dallas. It's fucking awesome. Features some of our best friends. And then in Austin, we have a new band called MO, which Austin from Judiciary is playing drums in that band. So it's going to be their first show. One of the guys that used to be in Ivy League is singing in it. So that'll be cool. So yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. And then we got some more stuff coming up. We will be around, I guess is all I can say at the moment. So
yeah,
be on the lookout.
That's very exciting. Yeah, definitely. We got a number of listeners from the Texas area. So if you can make it to those shows, definitely do. I will be living in FOMO watching all the videos, but it's, like we said at the very beginning, like it's always one thing when a band is just not had that like next release, and again the pandemic adds a lot of things to all the bands really, but to see this level of work being put into your guys' next release, and having that be anything that comes to me is something that's well warranted and something that y'all deserve. I'm really excited for the future of Judiciary, and dude, it's been a blast just talking about what's to come for y'all. And you're always welcome to come here on the podcast. Hopefully there won't be a 5-year gap from the next release, but dude, I'm really stoked for y'all, and thank you again for chatting with me today.
Dude, thank you again for having me. I would love to meet you in person someday. I missed you at Snow and Flurry, but hopefully someday we can finally make it out to Alberta.
Yes,
make that happen.
Yeah. The Judiciary curse of playing Canada will be broken. Hopefully, I don't know about this year or next year, but it will happen. We will get to check some, hopefully, Waterloo sparkling waters in the future. But yeah, Jake, thanks again for chatting.
If I can make it past customs, I'll bring you a few. We'll do it.